Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Coffman. Welcome to our 34th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Bamidbar, a new book, the Book of Numbers. Goes through the counting of the Jewish people, and it says, chapter 1, verse 46. It says, all their countings were 603,550. Now, as we count, the Torah counts all the tribes and how many people were in each tribe, and then it says all the countings, verse 46, all their countings were 603,550, and that did not include the Levites. Right, the tribe of Levi. Comes along Rabbi Rucham. Rabbi Rucham says in Das Torah he was the mashgiach, he was the spiritual advisor of the Mir Yeshiva. Wrote a book on the Torah called Das Torah, understanding the Torah literally. So Rabbi Rucham brings down the Ramban, and the Ramban says that the Torah is obligated to count, or tells us that the Torah wanted to tell you the count of the people. After it told you all the details, right? Went through the details of who they were, etc. Now it's going to tell you how many of each tribe there were, not including again the tribe of Levi. Why? Because Moshe and Aaron were commanded that they should know how many people are part of the tribe, right? Of each tribe that makes up the Jewish people, and therefore once we know how many people are there, right? The number of the people from each tribe. So, what's the point? The point is, kings. That's how kings count their people. They want to know how many subjects, so to speak, that they have. So just like a king would count his nation, count the people amongst his nation. So too, God counts the Jewish people. Now, that's another reason God counts the Jewish people. Counting means that each person is considered important. Each one has their own function, what their special mission is, etc. So we look at them as individuals, but we also look at them as part of a group. So we can look at it like this: that you can have people that are counted individually. So if you had a person has money, right? Sometimes we actually have money in our pocket. Person has money in his pocket, right? He usually knows how much is there. So a lot of times, if he wants to see how much is there, he'll take it out and he'll count it. He's not going to count it 1, 2, 3, right? He's going to count it very slowly because it's very precious to him. So too, God counts the Jewish people, and each one, as we mentioned, has their own specific purpose. They have a specific purpose and a general purpose. The general purpose is part of the whole group, right? Being part of the Jewish people as a whole. But individually, each one has their own specific potential that they have to reach. You had the Kohanim who served in the temple and who taught the Jewish people. You have the Levites helped in the temple as well, right? All from the tribe of Levi. And you had everybody else, right? You had the rest of the Jewish people. So each person has their function. In this case, we see each person is part of a tribe. How many people are in each tribe? So the Torah counts that, excluding the tribe of Levi. Now Rabbi Rucham here brings down a medrash. I think it's important to go through this medrash, and we'll see why. So the Medrash says that when God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, and the Jewish people were by Mount Sinai, and they saw God face to face, so to speak. So there's a difference of opinion whether they heard all the 10 Commandments or they heard the first 2, they died, came back to life. I don't question exactly what they heard, right? If they only heard 2, then Moshe told them the rest. If they heard all 10, fine. Right, difference of opinion. But the Medrash says, time that God revealed himself on Mount Sinai, came with him 22 10,000s, right? 220,000 or or 2,200,000, right? You figure out the math. It's a lot of people. There's a lot of angels here that coming with God when He gave the Torah to the Jewish people were a unbelievable amount of angels. So it's learned out from a verse. The verse says, "Rachav Elokim Rabosayim Alfei Shonon." It says that on these chariots, God's chariots saw thousands, right? Thousands of what? Thousands of angels, and each one had flags, right? All of them had flags. So the Jewish people saw that the angels had flags, so they desired to have flags. They also wanted flags. So they said, halavai, it should be that we also have flags like the angels. We want to be like the angels. They have flags, we want flags. So what did God say? The Medrash says, God said, you have desire to have flags like them? Fine. I'll give you flags. Right? I'll give you flags. So God told the Jewish people, God tells the Jewish people through Moshe, make for them flags like they desire. And each one, right, each tribe are going to have their own specific flag. So the Medrash continues that the Jewish people go with their flags, and again, the whole thing, how exactly the Jewish people are set up around the Mishkan, right? How they're set up around the tabernacle by each tribe and their flags, etc. And they're all the nations are going to look upon them and say, who are these people? What are they doing with these flags? Right? It's a little bit strange, right? They have these flags. And what are we going to say? We're going to say, look how beautiful these flags are. Look at what it represents. That we want to be like the angels. So what's the point? What's the point? So here Rabbi Yerucham says, right, that's such a great thing. You know, they're going to look and say, oh, we have power. Look, we have these flags. Right? It's a little bit strange. So says God Himself. God says to Moshe, fine, let them make flags, but let them make it for my sake. So people will know, the nations will know they're my people. How do I know that the Jewish people are God's people? Because the Torah says, Banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem. We are sons to the Lord our God. Right? He's our Father. He's our commander. He's the one in charge. He's the one who calls the shots. And we are His children. So too, God says, I took them out of Egypt. And I took them to receive the Torah. And when they go out and when they encamp, they're all going to encamp in a certain way. But each tribe is going to encamp with these flags. So says Rabbi Yerucham, if we chose God and God chose us, and we're doing it for the sake of heaven because we want to be like the angels, and we have the desire for flags, what's going on here? Right? Just because we have a desire to be like the angels, God's going to say, fine, just like the angels have flags, I'm going to give you flags also. And what's this whole connection? What's this whole connection that Banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem? How does it show that we're sons? We're sons to God, so to speak. Right? We're His children. Says Rabbi Yerucham, what do the flags represent? The flags represent kingship. represents the king and his subjects. Just like the Jewish people came out of Egypt in order to be the people of God. And we have a close connection to him, and that we're attached to him because he gave us the Torah and we have an obligation to keep it. That's our connection. So Yerucham says it's a tremendous praise for the Jewish people that believe and have 100% faith. God runs the world. He's Malei Kol Haaretz Kvodo. He shows the entire world. He fills the entire world with his honor. And they understand the special connection that they have. Because the Torah says further, Book of Numbers chapter 15, verse 41, I am Hashem that took you out of Egypt in order for me to be your God. In all this that I took you out of Egypt, in all my majesty, all my glory with the giving of the Torah, right? Go back to Book of Exodus, where the Torah there talks about fire and lightning and everything that went on when the Jewish people get the Torah. The Jewish people merit this. And they have that close connection. They're like one. They're inseparable. The Jewish people and God, you can't turn them away. Meaning, you have the king, you have his people. Just like the Jewish people saw the angels, they saw the heavenly angels. What do the heavenly angels do? They do God's will. Right? That's their job. If they do God's will. So they're inseparable from God as well. Well, you say, well, that's easy because they're spiritual beings. Spiritual beings don't have free will. They have to do what God wants them to do. Doesn't matter. The fact that they have a connection and they're attached to God, that's the point. Just like the king has his subjects, so he has us also. He has his spiritual subjects, his physical subjects. So to speak. So we have an amazing thing here, right? Let's break down this medrash a little bit. So you have the fact that God counts the Jewish people. God counts and shows how important each person is. Each person has a function, but they don't have a function outside of themselves. Meaning, they have their own personal function, but they also are connected to the rest of the people. So they have to fulfill whatever they have to do in this world, but they have to be part of the nation. That's why it's important for every Jew that you have to live within a Jewish community. You have to be a part of the Jewish community. So anyone who wants to convert, you have to move to a Jewish community. You can't just do things on your own. So there's that close connection. The Jewish people are inseparable from God. God's inseparable from them. So it's twofold. It's my personal connection, it's my tribal connection. But the tribal connection, right, it sounds kind of medieval. The tribal connection connects the Jewish people to the rest of the Jewish people. In other words, wherever you go in the world, person goes to a synagogue, whether it's in Johannesburg, whether it's in Rome, whether it's in Paris, whether it's in in Boston, let's say. You go into a synagogue and you pray in the synagogue, the language is the same. It's Hebrew. Why are we forced to pray in Hebrew and not pray according to each one that understands their own language? Simple explanation is because if the entire nation's connected and a person who lives in Boston goes to France and he doesn't understand French, the only thing he understands is French fries and French food, but he doesn't understand French, how's he going to be able to pray there? They'll pray in French, you pray in English. So you won't have that close connection. But if you walk into a synagogue and everyone speaks the same language, i.e. Hebrew, again, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, Hasidic, it's all more or less the same. A few different customs here and there. But they're more or less the same. So you walk into a place, you're all connected. Kind of like AT&T, all connected. So as a tribe, each tribe is connected to itself, but it's connected to everybody else. But the individual is interesting, has his own connection, has his own personal thing that he has to go through in this world. He's got his own potential to reach. But you see, his own potential to reach is also within the Jewish people. In other words, you're born a Jew, so you have an obligation to be the best Jew you can. You have free will. You have a choice. You can opt out if you want. It's not a good idea. You're certainly responsible for your actions, and you'll pay a price for doing it, but you have that option. Non-Jew wants to connect to Torah, right? Can't be an idolater. Has to keep the laws that apply to him without converting. If he wants to convert, fine. Doesn't want to convert, it's also fine. But he has to have a connection as well. So, when we're put in this world, whether we want to or not, we're born a certain way. So as a Jew, you have an obligation to reconnect your soul to Him. How do we do that? Says the Ramchal. Says Rabbi Chaim Coffman in his book Derech Hashem, The Way of God. He says, how do you connect that? Well, God put you in this world. He gave you certain parents, certain children, or maybe not, certain economic, social situation, put you in a certain city, certain state, whatever the case is, and you're sent here on a mission. So your goal, whether you know it or not, is to take your spiritual side, your soul, which you're given, and to reconnect it to God. So you ask the $1 million question, how are you supposed to do that? It says the Ramchal, God made a book, manufactured himself. It's called the Torah. So God tells you things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. Now, obviously, if God wrote it, He knows what's good for us and what's not good for us. We may not understand that fully, but God does. So regardless of how well we understand it or not, we still have to keep it. So God put all these things in the world in order to build the soul. So when we do mitzvahs, that's what it does. It builds. It builds the spiritual soul to have the opportunity to overcome the body. And make the body more like a pure soul to a certain extent. So the soul needs to be nurtured. It's kind of like a flower. You don't water it, it dies. Right? You can try this at home. Take a flower, put it in the sun, water it for a while, and then don't water it for like a week or two. See what happens. Right? So Murphy Stein's law is it will die. Soul is the same way. You have to feed it. It's insatiable. If you feed it with garbage, it'll want more garbage. If you feed it with Torah, it's going to want more Torah. But there's always the clash. There's always the fight, one between the other. Right? The good inclination versus the evil inclination. So, the idea is that the person wants to reach his potential. Right? As a Jew, he's got to do it within the confines of what Judaism tells him he's allowed to do and not allowed to do. Again, you want to opt out, you have free will. We're not getting zapped if we transgress. But keep in mind, as the Ramchal says, there are other factors involved that are negative if you do them. It's going to detract from your soul. It's going to debase your soul and your body. But it's your choice. So the soul is trapped in the body, and the soul is desperately trying to connect to God. Because that's what it had before. So the Ramchal says there's only one way to do it. I mean, he's not the only one. Right? This is universal within Judaism. How do you do it? You attach yourself to God. How? Through the book that he wrote, which is called the Torah. So now picture, if that's the goal, and that's what we're really doing here, and that's our purpose. Now picture the following scenario. Jewish people, the highest level they've ever been at since man ate from the tree of knowledge, right? Since Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, they reached that high point of where that was once they got the Torah. They dropped very fast after the sin of the golden calf. Right? Dropped like a hot potato. But at that point, they reached that high level when they got the Torah. Comes along Rabbi Yerucham, says Rabbi Yerucham, in the name of the Medrash, God gives the Torah to the Jewish people. There's fire, there's brimstone, there's lightning, there are all these things going on as God's giving the Torah. But what do the Jewish people see? What do they experience? I mean, they experienced death, came back, right? The whole story, what exactly happened, how they heard God speak. But what did they see? What did they see? Says Rabbi Yerucham in the name of the Medrash, they saw thousands, hundreds of thousands of angels. They saw God's, heavenly kingdom to a certain extent. They saw thousands of angels with their flags. Jewish people look up and they see this unbelievable spiritual sight. And they say, we want flags. God, we want flags. We have a desire to have flags. God says, fine, you want to have flags. I'll give you flags. Well, let's analyze it a little bit further. They're looking at something spiritual. Right? How they're able to see it's a good question. They're seeing these angels. Right? They had a certain level of divine inspiration, prophecy, whatever you want to call it at that point. Right? Prophecy, really, it was very strong that they're able to see what they were able to see. So here they're seeing something unbelievable on a spiritual level. Right? Their souls are getting the benefit of hundreds and thousands of malachim, of angels. It's funny. It's ironic. They're like, wait, they see the angels like waving these flags. The Jewish people say, we also want to have flags. Like, what, are you kidding? You want a flag? So the other question is that they see what the angels do. They want to be like the angels. But there's a major issue. How can they be like the angels if they're human? Angels have no needs. Right? They don't eat, they don't drink, they don't sleep. They're not human. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu was able to get the Torah, because the angels are saying man's going to sin and do all these terrible things. Well, how does Moshe Rabbeinu get the Torah in the end? When he goes up there, he says that, you angels, you're not able, it says in the Torah like this. Can you do that? No. It says in the Torah like this. Can you do that? No. Then the Torah belongs to us, and that's how Moshe gets it. He basically convinces the angels saying the Torah's not in heaven. You can't keep it. It has to be given to us. Doesn't matter if we make mistakes. Right? The Torah is going to be given to us. So, they're seeing a spiritual thing that seemingly they don't have a connection to, or somewhat of a connection to. Imagine seeing God's heavenly court and heavenly throne, and you look up and you see thousands of angels. We have a connection to that? What connection do we have? We're living thousands of years later. We're not living in the spiritual world. We're ground in this world. A little bit difficult to understand. So what's the desire? What's the desire that God gives them the ability that each shevet is going to have their own flag? Right? Each tribe is going to have their own flag. Why? What's the connection? We're not spiritual beings like angels. But doesn't God breathe into us the spirit of life? Isn't that spirit of life the soul that eventually when the body dies, the soul's going to be up with everybody else in the next world? Wherever it ends up, it'll be in the next world. So we do have a connection. We do have a connection to spirituality, even though we're grounded in this world. But let's take it another step further. When they see the picture of the angels with their flags, it says Rabbi Rucham, they're seeing kingship, and they're seeing the subjects of the king in all its glory. Again, we can't really, it's really hard to fathom. Imagine a king, hundreds of years ago comes, he comes to a certain city. You think he comes by himself? Doesn't come by himself. Comes with a whole entourage. Right, he'll come with a fancy carriage. Have all these people serving him and helping him. Hundreds, thousands of people come with the king. People come out, line the streets to give, to pay respect to the king. Imagine what an impressive sight that is. Well, again, we don't have so much of a connection to this, but imagine what a sight that is. To see the king in all his glory, in all his splendor, with a lot of his servants. That's pretty impressive. Right? That's pretty impressive. So what do you see? You see the king with the people that serve him. Comes along Rabbi Rucham. Rabbi Rucham says, just like a king has servants and have people that serve him, don't we also serve God? Don't we also have that connection? As we mentioned, we're God's children. He's our Father, so to speak. So we have a connection. See, you don't have God without the Jewish people and the Jewish people without God. They're inseparable. A king, a human king, doesn't rule by himself. He needs people to rule. Otherwise, he's not king. Right? If he's king over himself, whoo! He's king over himself. Big whoop, my language. So what? People are going to show him respect. People are going to say, oh, kingy, over yourself. That's beautiful. Goodbye. But if he comes out, in all his splendor, in all his glory, and the people see that, who doesn't want to have a connection to that? Who doesn't want to pay respect to that? So let's look at God and the Jewish people. Right? God and the Jewish people are totally inseparable. They are totally intertwined. For better or for worse. Right? God's stuck with us. We make mistakes, we do other things, the angels are right, doesn't matter. But see, what did the Jewish people want to imitate? They wanted to imitate a flag? That's really what they wanted to imitate? No. They wanted to imitate what's behind the flag. What's the fundamental principle behind the flag? The fundamental principle behind the flag is achdus. It's togetherness. A king who has servants, subjects that love him and that serve him, that want to be connected to him. The Jewish people want to have the relationship the angels have. They want to have that close connection. They might say, well, that close connection get us in trouble. Because if we're very close to the king and we don't do what we're supposed to do, we could get burnt. That's also true. At the same time, who doesn't desire that? Who wouldn't want that? Okay, so I'll take my chances. I get burnt, I get burnt. But you're given an opportunity to be with the king, especially the King of Kings. And you can connect to that and have a relationship. You can have a general relationship and a personal relationship. Who doesn't want that? Who, I'm ready to sign up. Everyone would be ready to sign up. Connection doesn't, that connection doesn't always look so rosy. Right? We've seen throughout Jewish history what happens when we don't do the will of the king. It doesn't look so good. But at the same time, Rabbi Chaim says that the bond is unbelievable. The bond is so strong. And that bond is forever. Right? God says He'll never destroy the Jewish people again. Or never destroy the world again. I mean, however many people end up at the end, the end of days, it's a good question. But we have an opportunity. It's a golden opportunity a lot of times we end up wasting. You see, we have this great connection. We have our own personal things we have to do. And our own potential we have to reach. That's very true. And we want to have this spiritual connection. But God thrusts us in this world, in this seemingly upside down world. Gives us a soul. Tells it to go find himself back to God. Meaning, make that connection. Make that spiritual connection. But see, God throws a lot of things at you also. Makes life difficult. Puts you in certain situations, doesn't warrant it to be so smooth. Nonetheless, we want to have that connection. So God gives us an opportunity. He gives us an opportunity 3 times a day, at least for men, twice a day or once a day for women, to have this connection. How is that? Through prayer. Right? When we pray, we're standing in front of a king. I mean, there are other things in the Torah we have an obligation to do, other mitzvahs to keep. Prayer is one of them. See, but prayer can be an unbelievable spiritual experience if, we have the right frame of mind. It's something that always needs strengthening. We're very weak in it because it kind of looks like you're praying to a wall in a certain way. That means there's something lacking in us, in our inside. Be that as it may, God gives us an opportunity. Now, most people look at it as a yoke. Okay, I have to come to synagogue, I have to pray, I'll do it, get it over with. I'll try and have some intention. Basic intention, but, I'm human, what do you want? It's difficult, true. And a lot of times we're tired, a lot of times we're on the run. We're busy with this, busy with that. So it's like, how do you get yourself in the mood? How do you rise yourself up to the occasion? It's hard. All right, we have a lot to work on in this world. You see, God set it up where if we want to focus and put our energy so strong into something, you open up your heart a little bit, God will go shh and open it up tremendously. But you have to have the desire. Regardless what goes on, you have to have that desire. That fire has to be lit. Now, even if we understand that, doing it is something different. Because again, we're, thrown in so many different directions. On a regular basis. But see, if we have the opportunity to tune in to the spiritual world, to listen to classes, to be inspired. Even when, we're driving to work or coming back on the train or whatever it is, we can tune out the rest of the world. And a lot of times we have to. Kind of depressing what goes on in the world. Or people speak about other things. So, God is telling us in the Medrash, you want to have a connection to spirituality? I'll give you the opportunity. You want to be like the angels? I'll give you the opportunity. Take the opportunity. Don't waste it. The connection you have is because I breathed in you the soul of life. That spiritual soul has to be nurtured. Has to be worked on. We have to exemplify what we learn. Put it into our lives. See, another thing we have to keep in mind is that we also think we're living in this world. And we think that we are a very small, infinitesimally small speck of cosmic dust. Because the reality is we live in a small town or a city or whatever, in a state, in a country, on a continent, on a planet. Right? It makes us feel a little bit small. In a galaxy, far, far away. Right? In a galaxy, they're going to think, okay, God created the world. And He's busy keeping the world together, intact, every second of the day. So you want to really think that He's got time for me? He cares what I do? So this is a mistake that some people make. And that is that God gave you a spiritual soul. That spiritual soul has the ability to do unbelievable things in the spiritual world. We don't see how it works. I'll give one example. Man eats from the tree of knowledge. Tree of knowledge is brought down, represents all the spiritual world. Right? All the spiritual worlds according to Kabbalah altogether. Right? You have one world that's supported by the next world, supported by the next world, till you get to the top, which is supported by God's heavenly throne. Whatever all this means. So when man ate from the tree, chomp, 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 all the spiritual worlds went, got all messed up. Got intertwined like a double helix. So we're in this world. We have the ability to undo that. How are you going to do that? Because when I make a blessing, I take an apple. Here's my apple. Right? See my apple? Here's my apple. You make the right blessing, Brei Priya Eitz. Forget Kabbalah. I just understand it's the blessing of the fruit of the tree. I make the blessing over an apple. What happens? So I bring heavenly influence over all fruit trees in the world. Causes fruit trees to grow, to sprout. Gives blessing to that. You can say, well, if I don't make a blessing, causes the opposite. True. But see, we have the ability that our actions have physical and spiritual repercussions at the same time, which is a little bit hard to explain. Because really your body and soul. You're not just body. You have a soul that controls the body. Otherwise, soul goes out, the body dies. So when you make a blessing, or any mitzvah, or God forbid, any bad thing that you do, then that action is going to be judged. Where you're holding when you did it, how you did it, what your intention was. But it's going to manifest itself two ways. It's going to manifest itself in a physical thing and a spiritual thing. Physically, I make a blessing over the apple, Brei Priya Eitz. I eat the apple. Right? I made the blessing, I did what I was supposed to do. Not only that, spiritually, it gives blessing to fruit trees in the world. So at that split second when I did it, there are two things going on. There's a physical and the spiritual. And then it gets sort of slapped back to this world and exactly how it gets judged and what happens and what the repercussions are. So you're saying, what are you talking about? I just ate an apple. Right? You want to say all these things go on. I just ate an apple. Yeah, we don't see it. But there are so many things going on behind the scenes. A lot of things we don't see. That's true. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But we're not even cognizant of it. We're just so busy. Running, doing different things. So we're not even cognizant of what we're doing half the time. So God says, I don't care. I put you in this world. I don't care if you're so busy and you're running and you're tired and this and that. But you still have obligations. You're at work, you eat something, you gotta make a blessing. You're hungry, you're, on the train, you're coming home, you're in your car, you want to eat something, drink something, you gotta make a blessing. There are obligations of what we do every day, every second of the day, where we are. So we can't ignore that. So of course I don't ignore that. I keep Shabbos, I keep Kashrus, I do all these different things. You're telling me I ignore it? So before we go to sleep, we should always take stock of what we've done during the day. If we were to really take stock, really honestly, we should have nightmares. If we think about what we said, who we spoke about, what our attitudes were, how I wasted time doing X, Y, or Z, and we think on a daily basis of what we do, it can be very depressing. Or we can say, okay, tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow I have the ability to be better. So you might ask, but how is it possible? It's possible because we have an insatiable soul. Because the soul is insatiable, all it wants is to draw close to Torah, to God. But you have to give it the ability to do so. You don't give it the ability to do so. It's like the plant. You don't water. It dies. It doesn't mean it's totally dead. You can still have that spiritual, you can still have that spark. So no matter what a person does, he still has that spark. He can still come back. Much more difficult. The reason it's much more difficult is because the more garbage you pour onto it, you can't dig out. So the connection between God and the Jewish people here in this measure is unbelievable. Because here the Jewish people are saying we want to be like the angels. Okay, we're human, we're not. True. But they have the ratzon, they have the desire. Desire to become better is already 90% of where we want to go. The other 10% it means we have to go out and do it. And we get distracted in other things. But how many people today have that desire? We're just going through the motions. What are we striving for? What spiritual goals are we working on? Are we working on anything? Or are we just on automatic pilot? So if we do things even on automatic pilot, you'll get credit for it. You'll get credit for doing it. But it's not the same. It's not the same connection. Yet we lose that. So if you don't have the desire, then the reality is it's like your soul is dead. And again, you can say, listen, I have good days, I have bad days. Okay, we're human, true. But that's why you have to fight every single day. The fight for spirituality. And if you don't work on it, it makes that fight much harder. If you do work on it, doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But you're going to you're going to give something to the soul. You're going to give, it's kind of like giving juice to the soul. It's feeding it, right? Feed me, Seymour, feed me, right? That's what the soul's saying, feed me. Give me some of that spirituality. Let me tap in. Because then it gives the soul more life. Gives it the ability to fight against the body. If you don't give it that, the soul just disintegrates. The body just does whatever it wants. Which is the antithesis of why God created the world. Why He created man. These are big shoes to fill. Very true. Right here, we don't beat around the bush. We hit important ideas. Important concepts. Because life is real. Most people live life as fantasy. But we believe life is real. Not only that, what we do matters. And here's a tremendous lesson. The lesson is that the Jewish people want to imitate the angels. They want to be like the angels. Not just to wave a flag. I got my flag. No, they want to have that connection, that achdus, that togetherness that the angels have with God. They want that also. They want that relationship. And in reality, we do have that relationship. But see, as individuals, we have to strengthen. We always have to strengthen. Because we can never rest on anything. Because when we rest on our laurels, that's it. The Yetzer Hara just grabs it. So it's fine, I'll give you a little bit here, a little bit there, but I'm going to destroy you. That's what the Yetzer Hara wants. Wants to make you make mistakes. Wants to make you get all caught up in cheesecake before the holiday Shavuos when you forget what the holiday is really about and what the purpose is. You're going to say, I'm really going to forget. Obviously I know it's about giving to the Torah and about the importance of Torah and learning Torah. And we can't let these foreign things seep in. We can't make the Iker Tafel and Tafel Iker. In other words, you can't make what's subservient to what the most important thing is, make the thing that's subservient the most important. You can't switch them. So in short, we're fighting for life. Spiritual life. And even if we live in the strongest Jewish neighborhood, still, you got to fight. There's a lot of other things going on in the world that affect us, and we come in contact with. So a person's born to work in this world. So you look at it one of two ways. Either physically, that we have to make livelihoods, so we have to work because of the curse of Adam. Or you could say a man is created to work, meaning spiritually. He has to work on his character. He has to work on his bad character traits. That's what we're here for. Right? According to many, we're here to fix up bad character traits. That's what we're here for. You say, well, why would God give us them in the first place? Well, God doesn't want to make us perfect. We have to earn it. So we have to be in this world in order to earn it. Otherwise, what would be the purpose? Just make robots. He's got robots in this world called animals. But we're not animals. We have an animalistic side, but our soul comes from upstairs. So we can tune into the spiritual, totally different. We can make decisions. We have free will. Animals can't do that. So there's a lot of responsibility. But I venture to say that the responsibility is worth it. Because at the end of the day, what we do matters. How we do it. What our intention is. The reality is, it could change worlds. Depending on what I do. in how I did it and what I was willing to sacrifice. Because when we sacrifice of ourselves, God doesn't take that lightly. Sacrificing ourselves in different ways can stop evil decrees in a major way. So we have to take stock of who we are, what our goals are, and then go out and do it. Go out and transform ourselves. Obviously easier said than done. So I just want to remind people that I have a class once a week, Intro to Kabbalah, which is based on the book Derech Hashem. We're now discussing the way God set up the world, the purpose of man, and how he's supposed to reach his potential. I also give conversion classes, Noahide classes. Take a look at my Facebook fan page, Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism, or Beyond Noahides, and my blog, orthodoxconversion.com. Anyone interested can send me an email, rabbichaimcoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Everyone have a great Shabbos.